What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Soccerwise. David Goss, Tommy Scoop with you on Tuesday afternoon. Time is flat. I'm in a glass box of my own emotions, but I'm excited to be back on with you. We've got a huge show coming up. If you are watching live, thank you. Or if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. You will have to go to the podcast for this one, but we are going to talk to one of our favorites at the end of this show. It is none other than the man who doesn't even need 5 letters to define himself. It is Beau, baby. Beau Leroux is going to join the show. We did it at the end of last week, Tom, and I've had so much trouble containing the information that we've learned from it and, like, my excitement about it and being like, oh, yeah, no, casual. Like, we just have Beau Leroux coming up.
Yeah, the last question of that interview ended up being, I think, the most fun thing that came from that. It was an excellent interview from start to finish, but, like, we didn't know what we were stumbling in at the end, and we did the thing where we said one more question, and then it was like, wait, I'm sorry, we need like 4 follow-ups here if you can keep going. He was really good. He's a fun kid, and what a story he is. Glad he graced us with his time.
I'm glad he graced us with his time as well. We've got a lot to talk about. You've been busy, man. You've been churning them out. We've got moves outbound from Major League Soccer. We've got moves inbound into Major League Soccer. We've got news off the field, on the field. It's everything.
Yeah, and I have been busy. And everything in my life is just a distraction and a bridge towards playing NCAA 26 and continuing my dynasty of head coach Tony Soprano at Rutgers University, and an online dynasty with some friends whose names you might know if you're wider sports fans. I don't know if I'm allowed to say their names. I played, so the game has 4 levels of difficulty, guys. Goes like JV, varsity, All-American, Heisman. Heisman is like the highest. And I was playing, like I would start and like I haven't played a football video game long time. So it's pure nostalgia. And I didn't play anybody. I still haven't played anybody online. And this like online dynasty I'm doing is like Heisman. And I was like, I have to lock in for this to even have a chance. My team was
hanging on by a fingernail.
Big underdogs at East Carolina University. And I go up and I'm like pausing the game and checking the settings to make sure I didn't mess anything up. I was like, it's really Heisman. Spent the last 3/4 of the game hanging on for dear life, just bleeding the game out. It's been on my mind, just thinking about the recruiting trail, thinking about the pitches, and then going right back to Rutgers University, just trying to make college football great again in the great state of New Jersey, birthplace of college football. You know what I mean, guys? You got to get on the game.
I hate everything that just happened all together. That was an upsetting 45 seconds for me on this show. Shout out to EG in the chat. Shout out to Two Shot Luke as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. I will say this because there's just a lot to intake. I did grow up in the era of Thursday night Big East games when Rutgers was good, and like I think Louisville was good, and South Florida was good because those were all Big East teams at the time. Maybe West Virginia, and there was a 2-month period, 1 year, one time, the original Greg Schiano years, where like I'd go over to a friend's place to watch the Thursday night Rutgers game on ESPN. That would be like a top 5 matchup.
It's elite.
That's probably the last. And then I went to a Rutgers football game a few years ago. It was an October game. It hailed. Because it is the center of hell on earth, and it was.
And they probably lost 63-0.
It was like no. The opportunity to see a touchdown scored is too much of an experience. It was 13-3 or 12-3. It may have been just straight field goal. They lost to Penn State. It was like the first game of October. So you're like, oh, it's not that cold out. I was not bundled up. And I'm like up on the top stand in Piscataway, New Jersey. Shout out to the original Sky Blue location where I did go to NWSL games back in the day. Classic. And it was rough. So that's my whole Rutgers experience. Also, shout out to Quincy Doobie. I've got a lot of shout outs going on right now. So anyone who gets them can vibe with them. If you want to vibe with us in person,
5 minutes.
We are going to be in Austin, Texas next week. We are going to be at Haymaker Bar on Tuesday at 6 p.m. local time ahead of the Skills Challenge. We are going to step on stage with none other than Box to Box Dynamo and Venezuelan international, former Virginia Tech grad, if you want to talk a little college football and all of that type of stuff, Dani Periera. So we are stoked about that. He is going to join us to open the show. It is free. It is open to everyone. Please come join us. You can come join us if you're going before the skills challenge and then leave from there to go. Or you can stay and watch with us because we're going to be there throughout the whole skills challenge. We'll have it up on the TV and we'll be hanging out. After that, we're going to do a ton more show as well. We've got some local Austin guests that are going to come join us. We're going to dig into the ice cream shop because the transfer window opens next Thursday. So there's going to be a lot of news to hit. And then we've got some really fun segments we're going to be doing. Jordan's going to be there as well as some other big friends. We've got huge news that we're going to be announcing besides this later this week, which will tie into all of this as well. So, Tom, we're grinding. We are out here working. It is all, unfortunately, during the College Football 26 release few weeks. So we have you pulled away every once in a while. But if you're in the Austin area, if you know anyone in the Austin area, please tell them to come because I'm really excited for the show we're putting together, and I think it's going to be a ton of fun, and there's going to be some air conditioning. So I'm going to be posting up there as much as possible.
I can't wait. Yeah, it's been very busy, but a lot of great stuff. And when you guys hear the announcement, I can't wait. And hopefully I'll see as many of you that'll be around in the Austin area for All-Stars. So can't wait, Gus.
It's going to be fun. A few of the All-Stars have already left. We are going to announce the leaving of some of these All-Stars. There are new All-Stars to replace them as well. Unfortunately, some injuries, like we know, with Brandon Vasquez. So let's dig into all of our news now. Let's start with just a full news piece, which is we talked about this going into the Club World Cup, which has obviously come to a close here in the U.S. with Chelsea winning this weekend. But the MLS Players Association, as well as MLS, has come to an agreement on the distribution of the reward money that was won by the three teams in the Club World Cup. If you remember or don't, the Seattle Sounders players wore T-shirts to protest. They talked about it after the games as they were heading into the Club World Cup. It was not solved before the Club World Cup began, and so now we finally get a resolution after the competition finishes.
Yeah, it's really good news. I was curious to see if anything would even have been retroactively agreed or had things soured so much between the two parties, but it did. I think it makes sense for everybody, and I'm glad that the players got their bonuses and got a little bit more, and it makes a lot of sense, so I'm really happy about it.
So let's dig into some of the big player news, and this one caught me by surprise. Earlier today, San Diego announcing that FC Nordsjælland has terminated the loan of Milan Iloski. He will be headed back to Europe after coming over on loan this year. Took a little while to get into the starting lineup and then exploded. We've talked about him a couple times over the last few weeks, especially with all of the international call-ups and everything else. He has taken over that center forward role, scored a hat trick against Vancouver in a huge game, has 10 goals and an assist this season, Tom. And for a guy who had never played in MLS, it felt like a pretty good situation for both him and the club.
Yeah, and 10 goals, 1 assist in less than 500 minutes. Just an absolute per 90 heater. And he's a real deal. Again, he wasn't going to go and score 2 goals every 100 minutes, but I think that he was very clearly a good level MLS player, which is awesome to see. This caught me by surprise as well. I did a little reporting on this, and my understanding is both sides wanted this to end with a permanent deal. But they ended up being so far apart on salary expectations that they ended up agreeing, like San Diego said, hey, like, fair enough. We'll let you go back early and seek opportunities in Europe. And if you get what you hope for or want there, then we're happy. We're proud of you. And if not, we'd still open to be for you to return. So maybe this isn't totally over. Right. But I will say I was for sure surprised at how this played out. And Milan Iloski leaving after such an incredible short but incredible run here for San Diego and again for a local kid. So yeah, this is going to be one to monitor, and I was told it doesn't really change San Diego's summer plans. I will say a fan or two was like, all right, like they're definitely going to sign a DP9 now. No, they're not. They're not signing a DP anything. Like they've been pretty insistent all year, and even before the season, we're a 2 DP team right now. That's how we want to build. So we'll see. And that means that there still should be a place for Milan Iloski if things don't work out. But we'll see if he gets the right opportunity elsewhere in Europe.
You could see for San Diego, they don't want to bid against themselves, right? If he's saying, I think my market value is higher than this, then go out and find that offer. And if it comes back and San Diego decides to match, maybe he chooses to stay. And if not, like you said, maybe he comes back. But it's been a really good jumping off point for him. Obviously a great USL player, goes to Europe, struggles to find his feet a little, comes on this loan, scores these goals, has confidence. So maybe now he's ready to go back to Europe and sort of achieve a little bit more.
And I will just add, I double checked this. His loan was due to expire at the end of the month. So it's not like they cut it short, like a loan from like the end of December, which I like because these end at different times depending on different loans. And so again, like maybe San Diego could have said, hey, we really, really want you to play for the next 3 or 4 games, or whatever they have left for the rest of the month. So I do think that that's good to like, rather than say, no, we need you right now. I don't care. Like he gets not a head start, but he gets to like, okay, if we can't find a deal here, then focus all of your efforts in Europe. So I don't know. We'll see. It's unfortunate that it ended this way, but hey, that happens when two parties have different valuations.
And for San Diego, at least it's post-summer where all of their players are with them again, right? They've lost a lot of players to international call-ups. They've been thin. That's where he's elevated and stepped in. So in the conversation of saying like, okay, they're not going to make a huge signing to replace him, it's because all of their pieces are going to be available once again. And Chucky Lozano has come back. He's been fit. Obviously, Jair continues to kill it, but like they should be back to their full complement of players after they've been very thin for a few months. And so if it's going to happen to you, now's kind of the time for it to happen to you. If Milan Iloski finds a spot in England in the championship, he will most likely be playing alongside Patrick Agyemang, who is, spoiler to everyone, going to transfer to the English Championship.
It's done. It's official. It just got announced 7 minutes ago at time of recording here. Patrick Agyemang is officially a Derby County player. And again, what I've been reporting since I broke the agreement was fee around $8 million, around $2 million add-ons, and a sell-on clause. It is a huge deal. It's one of the biggest for a former draft pick in MLS history. And it's an incredible rise for a player who, again, we've done D3 to D1, but to the super draft, cutting his teeth with their second team in MLS Next Pro, getting a chance, beating out a couple DPs, being the starter, getting to the national team, and now he's got a big transfer to the championship in England. So it's a really cool time for this player. Great development by Charlotte. It got contentious going out the door with a lot of that spilling public, with Dean Smith really disagreeing with the move. He went from privately just telling Agyemang, you shouldn't go, to publicly saying this is being driven by money or something like that, which I didn't really like. I don't think that that's a good place. And what I would say is, Dean Smith, do you do this job for free? Why did you go to Charlotte? Why didn't you, I don't know, man. I'd say get your hands out of other people's wallets. Like, he's making $100,000 at Charlotte right now.
And he has never made more. It's not like
gonna tenfold that.
Yeah, it's not like this is Ashley Cole who's coming here now and playing for under market value, but has made $27 million in their career already. This is his chance to take care of himself and his family on like an unprecedented level. It's interesting that you say for a draft pick because, I mean, there's a ton of history there. There is massive moves for draft picks inside of Europe. Right, like if you think about Clint Dempsey moving from Fulham to Tottenham, You've got Jack Harrison, who's made big moves as a draft pick. I'm thinking about the Tim Reams, Daryl DK. There are some big ones that have gone, but the initial move for a player who came out of the draft to come out of MLS into Europe has normally not been at this high a level. That's normally been held for homegrowns or foreign signings who then leave MLS. And go over. So I would love to see that list, which means I should probably make that list.
I think Daryl, again, off the top of my head here, flying blind, believe Daryl DK has to be the most expensive, $9.5 million. Yeah. Has to be, right? So Agyemang might be top 3 because Bombito was in this ballpark.
Yeah.
So that's probably the top 3. Who am I forgetting?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of center backs who have gone. Goalkeepers as well. I don't know what Brad Guzan's original number was. Maurice Adu back in the day, but that was like $2 million because that was the world we were living in. Jack Harrison, the initial move was not for that much, but then got sold to Everton for a ton of money, I think was the big transfer for him. And I'm trying to think of other college soccer players that have gone for huge numbers. And if anyone has any ideas or is in the chat, feel free to weigh in. For Charlotte, big day for them. They also have announced that they are going to be hosting the MLS All-Star Game next year.
Not announced. There's a special announcement tomorrow.
Oh, there's an announcement to make an announcement.
There's a special press conference. We don't know, because I'm theorizing that this is going to be Minty officially being passed the torch as a new position created above everybody else in MLS, like beyond the
That the
commissioner's office, beyond the
commissioner
players.
has to be a part of.
That's why he has to be there to say, I'm giving my blessing for Minty to be our overlord, as we know he is.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it, or maybe it's the All-Star game, but that'd be less fun.
Okay, well, if it's not that, then it ends up being this other thing, which is probably that they're going to have the All-Star game next year. Should be a ton of fun. Charlotte's a party. The Charlotte FC fans are as good as there are in MLS. I was actually just talking to a Charlotte FC fan on Monday, and we were, talking about the fact that you have conversations about stadiums and what you want to see across the league, and the Revs come up all the time of like, you'd love to see them have a soccer-specific stadium. Obviously, NYCFC is about to launch one. In that convo, Charlotte doesn't come up. Like, people will talk about field and whatever, but as you talk about, like, the games that are, like, you don't want to watch as much from afar, they're not as good in atmosphere, whatever, Charlotte doesn't come up, even though they're in a football stadium, similar to how Seattle doesn't come up, because those atmospheres are top-notch and really, really fun. So I'm really excited for that. It's right downtown, so you can kind of walk to and from stuff. There's a little minor league baseball stadium right there as well. So, Tom's going to be on the third base line, just being backup third base coach.
Go.
We got to get out to a minor league baseball game for that one.
Dude.
You could wear your Newark Bears jersey there or whatever you have.
Shout out to Trenton Thunder.
Trenton Thunder. Central Jersey, baby. Got to stay central. So that's going to be a ton of fun. I'm excited about that one. By the way, what are you wearing?
Right now?
Yeah.
Little FC Mama supporters group jersey sent by my friends. This is the little 732. That's the area code for my phone number for everybody in this area's phone number. And they got playoffs coming up soon. I unfortunately have not made it to a game because these seasons are very, very short. They were supposed to host a playoff game, and it got taken away from them because the machine didn't want them to be great. But that's okay. They're going to go on the road, and we got our FC Monmouth updated.
So I'm looking at the playoffs right now because my Vermont Green, of course, are also in the playoffs. They won the division on a walk. What?
Are they the same? Is Vermont Green in the same tier?
Yeah, they're both in USL too.
I don't think FC Monmouth. Maybe I should, when the sports, I shouldn't say anything.
Okay, well, I know the league that the team I'm talking about plays in. If you ever have a situation where you figure out the league that the team that you root for plays in, I would love for you to let me know. But they have already qualified for the postseason, but they do not have their opponent yet because I believe there is a play-in game to get to their point. They sold out the round of 16 and the round of 32, which are both played at their site. So even if they lose, you end up hosting anyway in 4 hours, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to be rocking my Vermont Green gear whenever I get back to Miami, which is in about 37 years. This has been the full odyssey for me, planes, trains, and automobiles everywhere around the world. But we're stoked about that. And USLW is headed to the championship game. I believe North Carolina FC has a team in the championship, and I do not remember who the other team is. And my Minnesota Aurora fell 1-0 in the semifinals, but shout out to everything that they did this season. Boom, we got it all. We're rolling through it here.
FC Mom is in the NPSL. I was correct. You scared me.
Cool.
You delivered it with such confidence that I was like, uh-oh.
But you said USL too.
No, I think I said something to the effect of fourth tier, so maybe that.
Okay, let's move on now.
I said 732. Get my area code right.
You guys are all a mess. Morgan has reminded me it is a Utah team in the USLW League final. So thank you for that one, Morgs. Tom, one I did not expect to see today. Pedro Vite. We have talked. We had Axel Schuster on this show, and he said, I think there's a chance he might want to stay because of the World Cup. The rumors were connecting him to Roma and some big teams in Europe. What is the latest here today?
Pedro Vite is on his way to Mexico. There's been an agreement reached between Pumas and Vancouver over the transfer of Pedro Vite. He was spotted in the streets of Vancouver, either with buying new very big suitcases or having just filled his suitcases and was leaving. That is happening. He is, again, on his way to Mexico. An agreement's been reached. Pumas have been working on this for several weeks. It's a big target for them. Vancouver didn't want to lose him, but player wanted to go, and that's kind of how it goes here. And he's off to Pumas because you cannot turn down the opportunity to share a midfield with Aaron Ramsey in Pumas.
Aaron Ramsey and Coco.
Yeah. Yeah. What a midfield.
Fever dream midfield for sure on this team. These are the moments, I think all of us have complaints about where MLS sits in the ecosystem, the food chain. I think watching Club World Cup, there were some frustrations with the success Al Hilal had and maybe some of the success other teams had, although not really in knockout competitions. I thought Al Ahly played really well. I thought Mamelodi Sundowns played really well. I don't know that outclassed what MLS teams did. But these are these moments where, okay, fine, you're not going to go out and sign 7 World Cup veterans at $400 million to build a team. But Pedro Vite and Coco Carrasquilla, if they want to play in MLS, should still be playing in MLS. You should have functions to be able to pay players that you went and found them at the right times in their career, and they were great pieces for you. And the fact that Vancouver going to Mexico and CONCACAF and playing well means they're in the shop window. It shouldn't exactly be how this league is set up, and I think that's a fair frustration for everyone to feel, where when Roma was in the convo, it was yeah, for sure. That's a really big team in a really big city, a historic team in a big league. I don't know that Pumas feels exactly the same, but Goya.
And that's again, that's no disrespect to Puma, but this isn't Club America or Tigres or Monterrey, right? Again, Pumas is a very good team, but they weren't in the CCC, I don't believe, or if they were, they're not.
They were. They lost to Vancouver.
Was that? I'm getting my years mixed up, but because they finished mid-table in the Clausura, so the qualification, whatever. My general point is this is outside of the traditional Giants, or the current Giants, I should say, in Liga MX, and I agree with you. And I think to go a step further, he just signed a new contract, and so obviously there was some sort of so I don't think that you're legally allowed to write a release clause in a contract, but you can have a gentleman's agreement with all right, listen, this is the ballpark that it would take, right?
Really, release clauses are not real.
In MLS, I don't believe so. But
in
again,
MLS, got it.
Maybe that's changed.
Yeah, so Vancouver beat Pumas in the quarterfinals to then face Miami.
Right. That was right.
Yeah, so they beat this team head to head.
Yes. Yeah.
And Coco Carrasquilla was the best player in that series. Just saying. Or from Pumas' point of view.
And if along this thought process, along these lines, like you say, it's this feels more of a gut punch than we're talking about Agyemang to Derby, which again, maybe Derby isn't in a great team, but still, you kind of understand it.
A draft pick going for $8 to $10 million is the way the system should work.
But the thing with Pedro Vite, again, not only are you going to a team that Vancouver eliminated this year, not only is it again, I'm sure he's getting a pay raise, right? That. Mm-hmm. That's usually the answer to all of this. Mm-hmm. I wish that there was something more nuanced or difficult. If you don't understand something, you can just assume that, right? And that often answers a lot of questions. But that's not the only thing. What I feel for Vancouver fans is he's been here since 2022. So this is his 4th season with the team. And he's shown moments, he's shown flashes. He has not been a plus starter for Vancouver until this year. And he's been really, really good this year. Yeah. And guess what? The second that you let him play through mistakes, the second that he develops into the player that they thought he was going to be and he thought he was going to be, guess what? Time to sell him. And now Pumas gets this player. It was almost not the same thing. Matty Bogusz, these are all different circumstances and different clubs and money coming in. Matty Bogusz, he was fine in his first LAFC season. And then he was great. And guess what? Now you prove that you went from a promising player to a contributing professional, getting into your prime player. Time to go. So that's what is the gut punch for me. Is we've been waiting for this Pedro Vite to show up. And the second he did, he's gone.
Yeah, and their U22 initiative, which means to some extent it's working, right? The league wants teams to go out and spend for players in this profile, but not be hit by the fact that if you turn them into DPs, it's just too much of your spend and roster build to then also be competitive. So that's the success, right? You can go out and get a Pedro Vite and have them learn along the way and not be a star immediately and get to the spot. But whatever it is, if you're an NBA fan, you know birds' rights. You have the ability to pay someone to come back to your team more than what they hit the salary cap at or what other people can do. There's got to be some mechanism like that of if you nail a U22 signing, and Pedro Vite clearly turned and said, I'm happy to be here. I want to be here. There has to be a way to financially compensate it and not cripple the team's salary build, especially then when you're talking in this range. This is not astronomical. This is not PSG coming in and saying, we want to sign him. Because if that's the case, then whatever Vite is going to get there is nothing that Vancouver can touch. And maybe Vancouver doesn't want to touch what Pumas is paying, and they're happy that there's no mechanism can do it. But there should be a mechanism to make it possible and be able to do that. And as a fan, it's unfortunate. This is a great soccer player. And this is like a perfect piece in that Vancouver team. And so now not only is it a thin team that's potentially going to get sold and has to deal with coming from CONCACAF and trying to make, a supporter shield run or a playoff run, whatever it is, but now they're missing a player who's going to be a huge piece of what they do. So a big piece of news there for Vancouver as well.
One more on Vancouver. I just want to say that they're going to be very active, I think, this summer. Obviously they're going to bring in a left back because of Sam Adekugbe's injury. They are going to bring in a replacement.
Although Tay Johnson has been awesome.
Yeah. And again, that isn't even to say necessarily a starter or anything. It's I think Tay Johnson is the only natural left back available.
Ali Ahmed would be the next option.
Yeah, but you'd rather but that's a dude who played pretty much everywhere, but center back and goalkeeper. And even that, I wouldn't rule it out because he's so good at everything. But so I know that is a plan to bring in another left back just so that they have cover and options and such, and then a Pedro Vite replacement.
Another Canadian team with a big sale, George Campbell, is headed to Europe, which maybe wasn't one on everyone's radar, but this has become a bit of a trend. You think to the Austin Trusty type moves of people like the profile of Athletic American center backs who can start to figure things out at the pro level. I've seen George Campbell play since he was 16. I'm not shocked by this move, but for Montreal, I think it's a good piece of business in a year in which they're not putting their best product on the field to sort of highlight a player like this.
Yeah. George Campbell is finalizing the move to go to West Brom in the championship. I don't know kind of what the ballpark of the fee is. It will obviously not be close to Patrick Agyemang, but I still think that this is a super interesting player, and I really like this potential move for him. We'll see how he holds up in the championship, but he's a super talented player, and this is, for all of the critiques of Montreal that I've had, they're really, really good at just sign an interesting young player, give them the runway to play well, and then we're not going to hold you for an astronomical asking price, something fair, something reasonable, and we will move you on. So I think that they deserve a lot of credit for that, and George Campbell is the latest in that kind of pipeline.
It's why we get kind of excited when they trade for Jaquil Marshall-Rutty of the world, because you're like, okay, this is a place where players like this get opportunity, they get chances, and they've been able to elevate their careers. It's not going to work every time. So Jaquil Marshall-Rutty being moved on again is an example of it. Caden Clark, huge bump, settled now, maybe hasn't gone the way we'd expect. Bryce Duke, in and out as well, right? Jalen Neal hasn't really gotten his feet set in the league, hasn't really been able to be healthy fully this year. Mm-hmm. That would be the expectation of who really steps in to take the bulk of the minutes George Campbell's leaving. But Brandon Craig, another one as well, where this is a young player that has a ton of potential. A lot of people big fans of his game. And so now he'll get a bigger opportunity as well. Let's move to Columbus now. You broke some news around them, and they made an official move earlier in the week, I believe, in securing Andres Herrera.
Correct. A little busy here for Columbus. 2 moves that had already been reported and expected, but they're now official. They've extended the loan of Andres Herrera, which is very good. I think he's just a good player for this team, and it's difficult to navigate with a player of kind of his age with the transfer fee that would come in and what makes sense. So kick that problem down the road, at least that Andres Herrera is staying. They've also brought in Hugo Picard on a U22 initiative deal. This is a player that is really talented. He's an attack-minded player. They might play him at wingback. They might play him as the underneath the center forward in the half space role. Wherever he is, I think this is going to be a good signing for them. I was talking to a scout for another MLS team when kind of I was reporting this out, and they were like, damn, we were looking at him too. I really like him. So that's always a good thing to hear. And again, as we've said on the show 100 times, the Wilfred Nonce bump, if this is a good player, you just blindly trust it, and if we're wrong, we're wrong. So this is an exciting one to get the summer started. They still need a DP attacker, but Hugo Picard that's a good move.
Are you reading tea leaves with this because Nonce historically likes thin rosters or tight squad? Of basically the whole response I saw to this was, where's Max Arfston going, or what does this mean for him or Mo Farsi?
Yeah.
Do you see that way?
No, that's interesting. I think that's a fair way to look at it and question and particularly with, like I reported earlier this summer, Toulouse had a bid rejected for Arfson, which was a very, very low bid.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've come back. I don't know what else is happening. It's a possibility, but like they acquired DeJuan Jones last year, and they are thin, I think, in attack. And for our arguments about Arfson, like he could be plenty fine playing a little bit forward. And same thing with Hugo Picard. Like I don't know. I haven't been told by somebody in Columbus he's going to play wingback.
Right.
I think that he's a winger, but like a winger like 10. So again, he could play in the half spaces, or like what I've really liked from Columbus recently, like Ibrahim Aliou playing wingback. I think that's awesome. Right? I think he's going to be really good in that role. So maybe they just, like me saying maybe he's going to play wingback, it wouldn't be for pretty much any other club, probably other than Columbus or Cincinnati in that kind of role. But it's just like, oh, Cincinnati or Columbus uses their wingbacks. Like Aliou started at center forward like 2 games before he started at wingback, right?
Yeah.
Like Max Arfson is a winger that he's playing as a wingback. So I think it's just specific to them.
It is the one team where you could say he could play anywhere and they could do whatever, but it did feel like there was a bit of a talent deficit. Obviously, pouring in goals against Cincinnati is different, but like they have struggled to finish. They have struggled to score the level of chances they've created. And then the Wesam Abu Ali, we're still waiting on that one as well. Some unfortunate news coming out in Aaron Long going down with an ACL injury this weekend. So will be out for an extended amount of time, has dealt with some terrible injuries in his career, has missed full seasons in the past. I thought he was the best player at the Club World Cup for LAFC. I thought, especially in that Chelsea game, he showed his ability, his combination of physicality and speed to stay with anyone. And maybe not win tackles all the time, but turn attacks around and force play. And as they have moved through a lot of really impressive center backs, right? Segura gets hurt. Murillo comes in. Murillo leaves. Marlon has been there, now has left. He has been the stabilizing force at that position. So I don't think you can underestimate how big of a loss this is for the team. And, of course, for us, knowing Aaron Long a little bit, it's just unfortunate to hear for him.
Yeah, and I think that was a great way to bring it up. Like, you know what helps other center backs look good? When you got a dominant dude next to you or somebody who could cover ground or something. Like, having that constant, that anchor next to you, it makes it much easier for whoever you partner that player with. And that was Aaron Long for this team. And that's what Aaron Long has been to this team since he arrived. He's been so integral to everything they've done. And again, former MLS Defender of the Year. He's a guy that, like, when he's right, he's best 11 caliber center back. And like that is such an important cog to any team, particularly with how he's been able to play with LAFC. If they're on the front foot, cover ground. If they're on the back foot, he can defend the box like hell. Like, and on the human level, like you say, man, it's just brutal. Unfortunately, in the game, still haven't seen it because for some reason there isn't a camera on. Again, a significant injury, not just in like injuries concerned, but like in the landscape of Major League Soccer. Yeah. You feared the worst. You saw him when he was coming off, and you hoped it wasn't true, and unfortunately it is. And like, I don't know, man, speedy recovery. That just sucks.
They have Nkose Tafari on the books. He came off the bench to replace there. You know, obviously I've stated many times I'm a big fan of his game.
I haven't seen him for a while.
This is the harder thing for him to do rather than step in, like you literally just said, step in alongside Aaron Long and play and step in place of him would be really, really tough. I will say, I mean, just look at the Marlon signing. Like LAFC at this position specifically have made a lot of moves where it's like, yeah, this center back at Fenerbahce is out for 4 months, you know, doesn't have a place to play. Like, can we bring them in? I would expect to see a move like that from LAFC. I don't know if we'll see like the big move because you've got a coach question mark. And I just wonder if you're going to make a staple of your team spine signing. I know John Thornton's the one who sets the tone and direction of that team, but I just wonder if that's one that you wait on for the offseason coming up.
Yeah, I know your point here, but like, again, they are realistically within a trophy conversation this year. So like, I like the idea of something that's short term, like you said, like Marlon. That's something that doesn't really sacrifice you going forward. But like, I'd be surprised if they don't do something at least decent size if we're trying to figure out the scale here.
Right.
Like again, maybe not a 5-year max TAM deal, but like, they're gonna bring in something. They have to bring in somebody.
It is going to be a big one for them in the Western Conference. Another big move in the West. We've got a Cashfer. We officially have, ding, 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 a Cashfer in the league. Sang Bin headed from Minnesota to St. Louis. Devin Padelford also going to make a move, but not as a Cashfer. You're not allowed to throw two. You don't get a 2-for-1 price, so you have to make them separate moves. Interesting move from Minnesota, from St. Louis. I think a logical one to me, and both of these players are athletic front foot players who should fit into the system that St. Louis is trying to make work.
Yeah, so those deals are being finalized. Sangbin and Padelford were both left out of Minnesota's last matchday squad, and this was why. So that should be done some point soon. They should be ready to go once the window opens. So for Sangbin, like St. Louis sees this as so last year Sangbin had his best season as a pro, and this season he's been on the outs. And Minnesota have been really, really good. They have a good number of options, and they've found the right formula that works, which has made him expendable. Sounds like disrespectful. It's just like somebody that he's expecting or hoping to be playing more, and they don't need him necessarily as cover. Like he's not really threatening like the rotations now. So it makes sense that St. Louis see like, hey, we think he'll fit better in our system because he's not really a wing back, but he's not a that half space. Like so the two he's a winger and a classic type of winger. And Minnesota don't use wingers. So that's kind of where he's been left out. So I'm interested to see how it works. I always like a play for a talented player and somebody who should fit St. Louis's system better than kind of what was happening in Minnesota. And then Padelford, like he's just clearly an MLS level player. And that's good for cover. And we'll see, I guess, exactly if he's going to break into the rotation or not. Like, it is interesting that they had Anthony Marcanich.
I was going to say, the ceiling on this, literally the ceiling on this move is Anthony Marcanich. Right? Like, he could be a difference maker. He could score some goals on the back post. Super athlete. Like, that is the hope, and the exact profile is the thing they sent in the other direction, which is why he's not playing for Minnesota.
Yeah, and why they facilitated a need for the position. Absurd. So it all comes full circle.
We are in full NBA territory of like, well, if I trade you your second-round draft pick that you traded me, will you then buy out this guy who used to play for us, and then we'll pay him a veteran minimum, and then we do it all again. One last one to close out before we get to Beau Leroux. If you are watching live or watching via YouTube, go to the podcast to hear that interview. Awesome interview with a San Jose native breaking through and playing for the San Jose Earthquakes. Is that NYCFC has sold Burke Risa back to Molde, I believe it is. Yeah. And when I say back, I assume that is where he's from. And I am currently lost in Scandinavia and have no idea what I'm talking about.
You're correct. So there, that deal's being finalized. He's departing. NYCFC already brought in Nico Fernandez as their DP10 for the summer. He'll be eligible to play once the window opens in 9 days. And now I'm assuming that they're going to need another left back or another defender to add behind Kevin O'Toole. I don't know kind of what else to expect for NYCFC this summer, but yeah, this is one that like if he's not going to play a ton, or it didn't quite work out to the level of, I wouldn't say this ended up being a bad signing, but like was one that'll come and go, and the next time in 4 years when all of us are hanging out at a bar somewhere just naming random MLSers, I hope one of us remembers Burke Risa.
That was the best way that could have ended. I also would say that game could literally just be NYCFC fullbacks. Like NYCFC has signed more European fullbacks than any team in the league. 50% of them have worked. 100% of them you could convince me are the same person. And they will probably make another one of those signings, and then we'll go from there. If not, I hope Kevin O'Toole gets his chance. O'Toole rules. We did have this comment in the chat. Yeah, Ricky Puig is back in training, so not back available to play. The timeline there is a little bit tough, and I'd be surprised if it was major minutes, but it's awesome to see, right? He is a player who is just like, it lifts everyone's soul a little bit to watch him play soccer and the joy he plays with, and we're hoping to see him back out there on the field. You've got anything else for me before we go to Beau?
I got one comment in the chat from earlier in the show from Sean Pace. How much should a fan base react to a devastating loss to a rival? My head says every match is equal value, but my heart says this catastrophic in hell is real land. What do you think? For me, it's easy. Yes, this is more devastating.
It is clearly more devastating.
Yeah.
I, as someone who has lost most of the things I root for and compete in, I will go away and not talk for like 2 months after something like that. But you better believe when the Knicks beat the Celtics in the playoffs, that you could not cut my vocal cords and for it to change. The symmetry of the Cincinnati home collapse to Columbus back to the playoffs is brutal. Like, that is rough stuff for all Cincinnati, like, ethos.
It's tough. It's tough. And like, particularly that like the equalizing goal being like the big deflection, and the one before that didn't really come out of nothing, but it was just like, oh, it's 2-1 now. Oh, we're only in the 40th minute. Like, it's like when Cincy went up 2-0 in 5 minutes, you're just like, oh wow, what a performance.
They scored too early, man.
Like,
Wait,
yeah.
For me, it's not a pen. You gotta get balls in the box, get in the mix. They scored too early.
Yeah, that's where I land on that.
It was a wild game. We have midweek MLS coming up, by the way. I completely forgot to mention that. And we do actually have some huge games for these same teams. So I believe it's Columbus playing Nashville,
Correct.
which is going to be a really fun game. LAFC play Minnesota. I think we had a bet going beforehand, which is, will either of us register as much possession as the two teams playing in LAFC Minnesota? And are you allowed to have less than 100% on the chart between the two squads?
Got to break it down to, there's a chance that ball out of play is making a running for the possession leader in this game. That's what I think.
Some other good ones as well. Cincinnati playing Miami. So for Cincinnati, like I said, you had the playoff collapse. Now you have this game against Columbus. These are the types of games that can throw a team off for a long time. This is your opportunity to wash it away, and no one will ever remember. We do have the question in the chat right now about Miami fatigue. Yeah. Messi's played 90 minutes straight, now 10 times in the last, I think it's like 6 weeks or something. Like, it's an absurd number.
I think he's saying it in like the theoretical, not the literal.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Well, I'm going to ignore that one for now. We don't talk about Miami that much. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if there's any, this is the show for you if you're worried about them.
Yeah.
We talk about them ever.
But they are relevant to the race right now. And Messi's relevant.
Yeah, no, we
relevant
talk about
to
them
MVP race.
a correct amount. As I say it, a relevant amount, rather than like, we have to lead with Miami every show no matter what.
And this is, again, we've talked about this a couple of times. This is like a pretty good matchup, right? Cincinnati doesn't need a ton of the ball. They can be super direct. You've got a player in Evander who can create something out of nothing. Like, here's the opportunity for a breakout game again for Denke, right? You're running over the top against Falcone, Toto Aviles, whoever it is at center back. Like, that's a great matchup for you. So this is a big opportunity for Cincinnati because you got to wash out the taste of that loss. Otherwise, it lingers with you, and that's really dangerous for a team that is capable of doing special things this season.
Yep, I totally agree. And this, like you said, this is a stretch run type. Like, what a week that is.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It would be tough if it goes poorly, but like you said, I think the best part of this is you just have a couple days on a training pitch and then get right back out to it rather than it lingering for too long.
And Nashville, Columbus, as we said, another big one. You know, can Columbus continue this march a little bit and push for a playoff spot? For Cincinnati, they'll head to RSL this weekend because this is midweek game, so everyone has a game this weekend. Then All-Stars next week. It is not a break. Don't worry about it. It just means the players who play an All-Star have to do more things because then they go back for another game on the weekend. Leagues Cup's right around the corner. I was going to say that around the signing of Hugo Picard is like, that's probably also some of the thinking around this is you've got 3 to potentially 6 games added in July and August for some of these teams. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot to do, and one of the people who's going to be front and center of all of it is our man Beau Leroux. So let's go to that interview right now if you're listening to our podcast. If you are watching live, the podcast will come out in a couple minutes. So just going to cut that together, put it out there, and thank you for being here with us. We are going to try, now that we are through this summer of soccer, I think to get back on a bit more of a regular schedule. So if you like watching live and being in the chat, which we absolutely love, and interacting with us, we're going to try and regulate a little bit so you can have some anticipation as well as promotion a little bit earlier. Do we have any more questions out there from people since we're just hanging out here and chatting? Tom loves the existential questions. That's all he wants.
Yeah. That's why I was quick to be like, no, you're talking about the physical state of Lionel Messi.
We have a Pet BL playoff or all-star question, which I think is a good question. The problem is that position. Like,
yes,
Dovi Da Costa is insane. He is so good. And you're talking about a guy who made it over Hani Mukhtar and like in the similar position. And Evander is obviously what he is. And Lucho still had a great year. And that's just like related to that one trade and everything else. So there's a lot of quality talent in these attacking spots and a lot of players that deserve the opportunity. Martin Ojeda, also a sub. Yeah, that's a good one, Mike. And he's played really well.
I
Another
agree.
big assist.
It is tough, but it's just like the two defensive midfielders have to play 90 minutes and do all the running. But yeah, no, this comes back down to there were the initial roster was 25, 26 players. That's less than theoretically one per team, and this is what it is. So like the snub list can go long. This is like, again, it'd be nice. Hopefully one day we'll have a East versus West, domestic versus international, whatever it is.
So obviously we're not in any rooms of relevance and people don't listen to us. But
Obviously,
I have now a theory that if you can pitch the domestic versus international, you can do it next year off the World Cup and be like, look, U.S. Canada stars, maybe you pull Mexico in that and you say CONCACAF, or you do CONCACAF versus the world. And if you end up in a situation where you have World Cup veterans and World Cup players from other countries playing that people have now associated, maybe that's a way for all of us to convince the powers that be at MLS that it's worth their time, or is like a setup that could work, because that feels like the one big scenario where you're trying to piggyback off the momentum and success of the World Cup.
Yeah, I think that's that's better than air quote domestic or whatever. But while we sit around and talk about it, the NBA is just going to do it first, and then MLS is going to look like followers when it's, it's like going back to the discussions about changing the calendar. It's like, yeah, they have the obvious breaking point after the World Cup, but no, we need to wait and do. Same thing is going to happen here. It's like we've been talking about, this would be a great idea. If they do it, that'd be pretty cool. And it's like NBA is just like, yeah, we're going to do it.
That's an elite line. Kevin Morella says that's just DPs versus non-DPs.
Thiago Martin, the only defender in the mix.
Yeah, true. Right. I mean, you could definitely put together, in thinking about this, right? If you said, okay, what's your domestic team, right? Especially if you combine across. So you're talking Canada and the U.S. Yeah. So you've got the Vancouver players who are Canadian. You've got Jonathan Osorio, if healthy, whatever it is. But like, the Roldans, Jomo, like they're deserved. I mean, if he's healthy, could be deserving. Look at the Cincinnati back line. You're talking about 2 or 3 potential all-stars in Miazga and Miles Robinson. And I think the other thing that would be fun about this is you probably get a decent chunk of homegrowns, because now a lot of the domestic players are homegrown players. And so it's a chance that Alex Freeman's in this one. Yep. Diego Luna, guys like that are in this one. A Jack McGlynn probably works his way into a conversation like this. And then if you add in the CONCACAF side of things, like you get in potentially an Annabelle Godoy or someone like that. And you have Alonso Martinez could be a part of that. And I think you're putting together a team where players should be all-stars. I don't know what you do in terms of phrasing with this, of like an all-star, but you have to have a certain amount of all-stars from this, but you also would be doubling the amount of all-stars you're announcing.
Yeah. And again, it's the same concept for East versus West and stuff like that. Like, it's, again, whatever the demarcation is.
Yeah.
And
so
I think that's good.
Yeah. So in a scenario East versus West where you're like, oh, someone gets snubbed because they're in the East and it's a better conference, it's like, right, but you're still announcing 58 all-stars or whatever it is. Like, we're pretty far down the list at that point, and we're in just full sicko mode, talking fourth team best 11 left backs.
ETR legacy of MLS 6 best 11.
I mean, Obed Vargas in central midfield. Andy Nahar right back. Like, we're talking about a squad, baby. We are talking about a team. All right. On that note, let's get out of here. Thank you to all of you for being here and hanging out with us live. We have an NWSL interview that will be coming up tomorrow. We've got some huge news that's coming out about Soccerwise overall that we're going to be announcing in the morning, so keep an eye out for that. And then myself and Tom will be back on Thursday with the live show. We've got some fun ideas in there. We also have an interview with Matt Freese that we've already done, talking to him about his national team experience, his future. You will love it. I dug in with him. There's like 9 goalkeepers around his age from Philly. And it's Thomas Romero, AJ Marcucci, Zach Steffen, him, Cisnero, John McCarthy, sort of like it, a little bit older in their territory. Yeah. He talked about Zach McMath a bit, growing up watching him. I think he named 1 or 2 others, and they all like train together in the off season. There's a vibe there, basically. Incredible. So I talked to Matt Freese about that, and we also got to talk down about Boston a bit, because he's a Philly guy who went to school there. I'm a New York guy who went to school there, and everyone knows it's secondary.
Uniting.
And that's the reality. Okay, so thank you. Oh, CJ Dos Santos, that was one I missed.
There you go.
Yeah, huge one. Okay, so thank you to all of you for watching. Thank you to all of you for being here. Here's our outro song.